Alrighty guys, so in these next examples, you can see that we still have equations with variables, but you'll notice that there's something a little bit different happening here. So we've got two items that are in the parentheses together, and typically we know we would start with whatever is in parentheses first, like good old, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? But we can't do anything with a 7x plus 3 because they're not like terms. So what are we going to do about that? We are going to have to do something that I hope is at least a little bit familiar to you, called distributive property. And that is where we are going to take that number that is on the outside of the parentheses, so in this case -4, and we're going to distribute it, multiply it by both of those items inside of the parentheses. And so what I'm going to do is -4 times 7x would be -28x, and then -4 times +3 would be a -12. So I'm going to write that as -12. So now we've got the 7x and the 3 out of those parentheses, and I can bring the 128 down. So now I can actually start solving this equation and getting the x isolated, get the x by itself. So if I look over on this side and see what's keeping the x from being isolated, we have, for starters, a -12, and we have a -28. So sometimes people get a little bit confused about which one you should get rid of first, and it actually technically doesn't matter which one you get rid of first, but I'm going to put in red, like don't do this right now, okay? Don't do. And because what some people might say is, hey, this means multiplication. Well, actually, here's the first mistake people have a tendency to make. They think that we're going to get rid of that -28 with a +28, and that's not true, because that 28 sitting next to the x means multiply. So we actually need to cancel out multiplication by doing division, okay? But here's the problem with starting off with that. I have to divide, if you divide 28 here, you've got to divide everything by 28, and like 12 divided by 28, for example, turns out to be kind of a messy decimal. So even though I could technically do that, I'm instead going to start off by getting rid of that -12 first, because it's just going to be a little bit easier. So how are we going to, I'm going to cancel that -12. How am I going to do that? I'm going to do that with a +12, and I have to do it on both sides of the equal sign. So that's going to leave me with 140 is equal to, those canceled, so -28x. And so the last thing I need to do is cancel the -28. And we're going to do that by dividing both sides by -28, like I already said. So once we divide, so that is going to cancel, leave me with the isolated x. What we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. So I've got x is equal to -5. So that is going to be our first solution. For number two is very similar to number one, so I'm not going to work that one for you, but if you can tell from the structure of it, it's very similar. So the next example I'm going to do is I'm going to skip down to number 3. And go ahead and give you an example of this one here. So if we were doing similar ones like to the last ones we did, you'd see that I do have some like terms, right? I've got like a 2 and a -8, and they are on the same side of the equal sign. But the problem, like the last time, is that these guys are trapped inside of these parentheses, which means that we can't do much to get them out. We gotta like get the 2 and the 8K out of those parentheses first. So once again, I'm going to turn to distributive property. I'm going to take that -5, and I'm going to do -5 times 2 which gets me negative 10, and then negative 5 times 8k, which is negative 40k. And I'm going to bring down the minus 8 because that's just kind of chilling out here, not doing anything right now. Now I'm going to bring down the left side of my equation. So 5k plus 27. And so now that I've got everything out of the parentheses, now I can put some like terms together. So this negative 10 and the negative 8 are on the same side of the equal sign, and they're like terms, which means that I can put them together. So negative 10 minus 8 is negative 18. I can't combine negative 18 and a minus 40k, so I'm just going to bring everything down now. I'm also going to bring down the left side of my equal sign because I can't do anything with a 5k plus 27 either because they're not like terms. So now I'm going to start canceling things out because I don't have anything over here that I can make more simple, and I don't have anything over here that I can make more simple either. So I'm going to start canceling out those variables. So I personally am going to get rid of the minus 40k. I really struggled with math when I was younger, and so I always go for like whatever the biggest negative number is. That's what I get rid of first. So I'm going to get rid of that minus 40k, and I'm going to do it with a plus 40k. And I'm going to do that on both sides of the equal sign. Because if I do it on one side, of course, I have to do it on the other side. So those cancel. I'm going to bring that negative 18 down. And then 5k plus 40k is 45k plus 27. I'm going to rewrite this because that's pretty messy. Ugh. So now we've got it down to a much more simple equation. I am going to look over here and see what I need to cancel out. I'm going to get rid of that plus 27 first because that's going to make the math a little easier. How do I get rid of a plus 27? I get rid of it with a minus 27. And I'll need to do the same thing on both sides. So that's going to cancel. I need to bring down the 45k, and then negative 18 minus 27 is going to leave me with a negative 45. I'm going to divide both sides by 45. So k is equal to negative 1. So if you look on basically the ones on this first page, so all you need to finish are just 2, 4, 5, and 6 on this page. Either of them is very similar to 1 or 3 for an example, although you know we've got our live meeting tomorrow that you can ask me questions. So I'm going to move over now to page 2, and I'm going to pick one more off of page 2 that I'm going to work for you. So the last one I'm going to do is number 9. And if you look, again, we know that the equal sign is kind of like the middle, right? Like the centerpiece of the equation. There's obviously nothing for me to simplify over here on this side because all that's over there is that negative 79. But I've got quite a bit happening over here on the left side of the equal sign. So I've got x's that are on the same side, but unfortunately I can't put them together right now because the 4x is trapped in these parentheses with a 1. This x minus 1 is trapped together in parentheses. So we're going to have to use that same distributive property in order to get them out of those parentheses. So I'm going to take the negative 8 and I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to use distributive property to multiply it by 4x. So that gets me to negative 32x. Then I'm going to distribute the negative 8 to the 1. So that's going to give me minus 8. So I've got negative 32x minus 8. Then I need to take this negative 7, and it is a negative 7 because there's a minus in front of it. I know it looks like subtraction. Negative and subtraction actually means the same thing. So negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times negative 1 is a plus 7, because negative times negative gives me a positive. So now that I got everything out of those parentheses, you see I've got some like terms I can combine now. Negative 32x and negative 7x are going to combine to get a negative 39x. Negative 8 and positive 7 are going to combine to get a minus 1. And now, man, that left side looks a lot better now, doesn't it? I'm going to bring down this negative 79 that's just kind of been chilling out. And now let's see what we need to do to finish getting that variable isolated, like getting it all by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the minus 1 first. I'm going to do that by doing a plus 1 on both sides. So that's going to cancel. I'm going to bring down the negative 39x. Negative 79 plus 1 is negative 78. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 39 in order to cancel that out. So that cancels, leaves me with the x. 78 divided by 39 is 2, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive 2. So my final solution is x is equal to 2. Just like the previous activity you guys did, there are little check boxes for you to use on the class kick assignment. So please use those check boxes. I don't care, again, how you show your work. You can text me, you can upload a copy to Google Classroom, whatever. You can do it on the app. Just please make sure I can see those steps. But definitely use those check boxes to make sure that you're checking your work as you're going. And you guys know how to get a hold of me if you've got any other questions.